Croeso and welcome to the Cardiff Referee Society's presentation with EFL assistant referee Chris Husband. Chris will be talking about mental health and what referees can do to help improve it.
Guys, I've known Chris for quite a few years. I think we go back to something like 2007, I think is the first time we
Maybe
met.
before that, dude, I think maybe.
Um,
Right, isn't it?
When we went over, we used to do Norway Cup in the summer months. So there's people like myself, Darren, Kim, Steve Crossman, who was obviously out there as I say assessing. He wasn't assessing; he was just out there on a jolly, wasn't he? But yeah. So I've known Chris for a long time. He's obviously worked his way up, and he's now lining on the football league. So tip my hat to you there, son. Good effort. The floor is all yours. I know we're doing a bit on mental health, which is always a topical subject. So without further ado, mate, is over to your good self.
Thank you, Mike, and thank you, Amin, for the invite, guys. And look, it's quite a weird topic to talk about, really, isn't it? Especially at a refereeing meeting. But I think it, like Mike said, it is quite topical. And I'll sort of go into detail about why I do it and why I want to talk about it, really, from what in the presentation, really. But it's really great to come and to actually talk to people for a first time in a long time, because how long couldn't we do it for was not good, was it? So no, really, thanks for having me, guys. Right, if I can share that, brilliant. Right, guys, I mean, the only way this works is if it's sort of open, honest, and everyone sort of gets involved, really. So anytime you want to interject, please do, because I'm not the oracle. It's sort of only my sort of observations and what I've been through in my life, really. So please chip in. So have you all got your pen and your paper? Or something to write with? That's going to be quite useful tonight. Oh, look at that! He's got his 3 colours.
I've got a spare pen if anybody wants one.
Mate, it's like the toilet roll at the start of lockdown, mate, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So loosely, I'm going to be talking about sort of mental health in life a little bit, and then sort of putting that into context for our refereeing careers, if you like. And so, like I said, we probably never really discussed it as an RA before. So if at any time you are uncomfortable, absolutely fine. All right, and if you want to join in, please do. But it's absolutely fine to be kind of worried or upset by talking about your sort of how you're feeling inside, especially as a man. So if it is disturbing, please just that's absolutely fine. If you want to share stories or comments, this is a safe space, and hopefully you all know each other and can trust each other. But colleagues and out on the pitch, we should know each other really well. But this is a safe space, like I said. But please only share things if you're pleased to do it. So why this topic? And I suspect Mike asked me because I've known him a long time, but I did a lot in lockdown to sort of promote mental health from my own point of view, really, to look after myself, really. But I quite enjoyed it, and I had lots of sort of positive feedbacks, and I'll come to that shortly about sort of my views on it. And but I am an assistant head teacher at a mental health school, so I've been doing that for 11 years. So I've got, I have got some psychology stuff training. I'm not a doctor. I'm not I'm not pushing this on anybody, but it's I think it's really important that we sort of talk about it and moving forwards, really. But there's certainly a great awareness on mental health in sport and media recently. I think it's really important that we address it in our refereeing communities, really. I think it's really important that we look after ourselves and look out for your colleagues, which I'll talk about shortly as well, because life's too short, isn't it? And I'm sure we've all lost people in the last couple of years, and if we don't talk about things, we can struggle. So please do. Like I said, from a personal perspective, lockdown completely ruined me. I don't know about you guys, but the first 4 weeks was brilliant. Kids at home, we didn't do a lot of work, did we? And then the realism sets in that this is life for a bit. And I'm Mike Ashore from the early videos you saw. It was hard. Life was hard, but the outlet for me was talking about it and talking to friends, to colleagues, and seeing what their thoughts were and sharing it and trying to create a platform to share it, really. So a tiny bit about me. I hate it when you go to a speaker and they just talk about me, but I think it adds a little tiny bit. So it's one slide. So 25th season as referee, which It's crazy when I think about that. 7 years, 7 seasons as an assistant referee on the EFL. I was a level 3 for 13 years before I had to choose the lining route. So I got level 3. I don't know if you would, Mike, do you guys know about the sort of referee pyramid in England and things?
Yeah, slightly different. Our levels are slightly different to yours, Chris.
Okay.
Yeah, they're more or less the same, but we're sort of one lower than you, if you like.
Okay.
That's the way it sort of works out. So.
Okay, so level 3, when I got it back in the day when I was 21, God, that was young, when it was sort of refereeing on Conference North and South, and then assistant referee on Conference Prem. So I did that for sort of 13 years as a referee before I had to choose. So, and there's a little picture of me, Mike, from the Norway look, from I think now I was 17 now, I think, or 16 there. So that's how young I was when I first started. So right, that's me done. Like I said, I'm going to talk about mental health in general, as well as from a refereeing aspect. I'm going to talk about the 3 parts of what we call the mental health triangle, and then how this links to refereeing, so before, during, after, and also about supporting each other, making sure we look out for your colleagues, but also sharing best practice. So like I said, at any time you've got a little story, a little foible that you can chip in with, please do, and I'm sure it'll add to the session. Right, just to start with, out of 10, okay, think about yourself for a second. This is just for you, okay, so I'm not going to ask you to read anything out. If you just put a number out of 10 for how you are feeling in life generally now, out of 10, just write that down on your page, and we'll come back to that later, just for you, for nobody else, about how you're feeling now. Whereas sort of 1 and 2 are sort of, you're really struggling in life, where 1 or 2, if I hate using this word, but I think it's appropriate to use, the things is sort of suicidal down the bottom, but 10 is life could not get any better. Okay. And then the second part of that, so next to that, underneath that, a score out of 10 about how you're feeling about this subject, because it is a tricky subject to talk about. And, but I think it's one we have to do. I think so. Again, so out of 10, how are you feeling talking about this mental health topic? How's that? Does it worry? Does it scare you? How's it feel? So we're going to talk about a little bit now about what we call the mental health triangle. So if you can just copy that right-hand picture. So you've got a triangle with the 3 sides: social, home, and work. All right, and I'll talk about those in a second. So if you do it fairly big, because you're going to sort of annotate this as we go through. So a third social, third home, third work. This bit is really interesting, actually, because if you look at the last 20 months, if you take each individual part of that triangle on its own, social for all of us just dropped right off the face of the earth. You couldn't see anybody. You could go to the pub. So I could go to the pub. Not saying that's a be all and end all, but that's a big thing. But social was took a massive battering. But if you look at the other sides, certainly early on for me, and I found this, I don't know about you guys, but home went really, really well. You're at home a lot more time. You spent a lot of time with family and your kids, which was brilliant. But then work, that's a really subjective one for us there, I think, because some people thrive on being at home, working online. Some people really thrived on that situation. Other people, if you work in a busy business or a busy office space, that would have dropped right off. So, I think it's really important that if you are struggling, and there's no shame in that, and I put my hand up to certainly doing that, but you work out which part of that triangle that you are struggling in, and then try and address it. And I'll talk about that shortly a bit more, really. But so what I'm going to use today, and you've briefly used it today about the scores, is I'm not going to talk about these words. So I'm not going to say them, because how many times you heard those bloody words in the last few years? We don't want to talk about those. Okay, right. I'm going to use the all rightness scale, which is what I coined, and which Mike will be aware of, because especially as blokes, right? The normal greeting. If I haven't seen Mike for a while, I'd go, "Oh, Mike, how are you, mate? You all right?" And you'd say,
Yeah.
"What would you say back?" "You're right, mate." Yeah, you'd say exactly that back. All right, and it's such a useless expression, isn't it? All right, mate. Yeah, I'm all right. Yeah. So I changed it slightly. So I'd say, "How are you, mate? Where are you on the scale?" So I'd say, "Oh, I'm a 4, I'm a 5." And then you've got a starting point, because these conversations we weren't having, we don't have, you know. And even we touch about it later about our refereeing. How did it go today? Yeah, it was all right. Was it? You know, I think, you know, honesty and companionship are really important here. So I'll come back to that shortly. But yeah, that all right, mate. Yeah, I'm fine. We've got to move on from that, guys. We've got to bin that. So hopefully the all rightness scale will help with that. So, and if you do struggle, some people sort of struggle with mental health in terms of scaling it, but it can be a picture, it can be a weather. You know, it could be cloud and thunder or a sunny face. So if you're struggling to explain it, or using it with kids or family or whatever, then, you know, at school some of the kids really do struggle to sort of label their emotion, and they just use a picture. So, you know, some will just like lightning, because, you know, some of their lives are really tough, and, you know, actually using a scale of saying, oh, a 2, that's really tricky for people. But actually attributing a picture, so it really does help. So things to be wary of. So I'm just trying to minimize the thing. Right, so in the psychology world, it's completely allowed to feel low or have a poor score from time to time. That's completely allowed. I'm sure some people had a bad day today, and that's fine. One thing to be aware of then, if this does continue for a few weeks, then please speak to somebody. It can be a friend, and if it does continue, then a professional. And there's no shame in that. You know, if you, like Mike, he's got an ACL injury, you wouldn't just sit and wait for it to be fixed, Mike, would you? You know, that wouldn't get anywhere. So we've got to seek help on this, and there's no better professional than professional. So that's no shame. And I think, you know, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, there probably was a shame in seeking help, but there definitely isn't now. And you know, on the EFL and stuff, when we have our meetings, we have psychologists, we have, you know, that support there 24/7, because ultimately it is a results business. And if you have made a ricket, then, you know, you are going to worry about it and take it with you, no matter what level of football that's on. You know, you can keep it, and so you know, there's no shame in that at all. So I also, as part of the all right scale, I got a hashtag of "it's all right not to be all right," and you know, bit of a useless saying it's all right not to be all right, but it is. You know, you're allowed to feel down and sad and worried, and I don't think it's a taboo anymore. You know, that's something we can all relate to, really. Right. So the 3 parts of your scale. So we'll look at the work first. What does research tell us? This is shocking, really. Only 17% of people in the UK are happy at work. All right, that's a shocking statistic, because we spend 50 years of our life at work. So does that mean they're happier than those who aren't happy at work? And you know, if you can look at your triangle as a third part of your life, if only 17% of people are happy at work, then there's, what's the maths? 83% of people that are down on that one side of your triangle, and that's a bad place to go. So, look, I'm not here to offer a careers advice, all right? But, you know, if you are struggling at work, you're not happy, then you only get one life. You know, so on your triangle, look at the work side where you're in work. Be honest with yourself, because this is for nobody else. Where are you on the all rightness scale with your current job? So out of 10, put a score next to your work. So why do we accept it if you're not happy at work? What can you change right now? Is there anything you could change? So next to your work, just write, if you can, so for you, write 2 positive things that you really enjoy about work, and then 2 things that you think you can work on. And we'll come back to those shortly. There, it'd be brilliant. I mean, so I'll go first. So I work at a mental health school, which is a very, very challenging environment. If you're not totally sure what a mental health school is, it's a school for students who've been excluded from school on several occasions. So, you know, we've got big, raw lads who've been through a lot in life. And for me, the positives are that we've got a really good, strong staff group who are very resilient, but I'm also very aware of what we're talking about now. And also our outcomes at Key Stage 4 are really good. So we are preparing these kids for life. But always, I'm sure for any of you who've been at school recently or have teenage kids or work at school, that the Year 11 group are very challenging, very, very challenging, very violent. So that is definitely a negative for me at the moment. But, you know, without writing that down now, I haven't really thought about that and what we need to address. So this is really important stuff. So does anybody want to share? You don't have to, not at all. The second part of the triangle is the home. Home, right? How on earth do we address that side of our triangle? Right, if yours is anything like mine, it's madness. Okay, I've got near 6-year-old twins, and they just never stop. It might be a bit of order madness, and that comes from the wife, not from me. Where are you on your home? So next to your triangle on the home bit, just put your score. Have a little think. Can you change anything? Whereabouts on that? Just be honest, because it's just for you. And then to the previous one, is there anything you can do right now that can change the balance of that? So could you actually do that little bit of DIY? Just get your partner nagging you. Can you put your family first? Do you need a bit of self-care? So these are the areas, once we're breaking them down, can you focus in on, if you are a 4 or 5, what can you do about that right now? Is there any little wins you can have to improve that? Probably the most tricky part of the triangle at the moment is the social. Like I said, the last 20 months have seen a massive nosedive in this area. So, if we were doing this a year ago, or 15 months ago, if anybody was above a 2, I'd be amazed, because, that was decimated, that area. Where are you on that? Hopefully that's a high score. Hopefully now it's improved and you are planning stuff, but it might not be. So out of 10, where are you on that? And then I'm going to say, could be better. We all need things to look forward to in life. In March 2020, how much did you miss football? I missed it massively. Just the physical, the social, the everything impact. I missed it hugely. You don't realize, especially with refereeing, and I'll come to that question in a second, but you don't realize how endemic it is in you, how it's built in you, that you the whole shaboodle, the whole shebang that comes with refereeing, from even just being in the middle to not ordering people around, but being in charge of something, to managing to a safe conclusion, just from even the bits at the end. Oh, I can't click on it. Okay. To, we missed that massively. Oh. Right. I'm going to set you a challenge just quickly. Take the next 2 minutes. Think about someone in your phone book right now that you think has been a little bit down, a little bit off color recently. It might be a family member, might be a work colleague, might even be a referee that's even in the room. All right. Text them right now and arrange something. We all knew that. I'm going to do it as well, because we don't do enough socially, and that'll give you something in your calendar to look forward to. Done. How do you feel, Mike?
In what way?
So in terms of if that you get if you get a reply now from that person saying, yeah, I'll do it.
Let me just see if the person's.
So assume they reply and you go and do it, and you think maybe they're down here, and you can do that little bit. I mean, the intrinsic stuff that you've gained just from doing that message, Mike, can have a really positive impact across everybody. So it's the little wins. It's the little wins we've got to be doing for our brain health. Right, on to the real reason we're here. So mental health and refereeing. And like I said, this is all from sort of my point of view and my experience. So please chip in if you've got anything to add, really. So, wow, like I said, 20 years ago, would we ever be having these conversations as refereeing group? I don't think we would. And I think it's quite right and proper we're having these now, because life has changed, and even with refereeing, it's a tough game, always has been. But how many times do you come, and we'll talk about it shortly, that you come home and you throw the boots in a bin? How many times have you done that? And it's about how we have that conversation, how we deal with that. Right, I want you to do, and I never know what the expression is, whether it's a thought shower, a mind map, whatever you want to do. So you put the refereeing in a circle, and just put 5 or 6 arrows coming off it, and take sort of 1 or 2 minutes about the good, but also the sort of negative parts of refereeing. So you can use your colours, Vasilia. You can use your colours now, mate. So sort of 1 colour for the good bits and 1 colour for the bits of negatives, or the areas you think are actually struggling for refereeing, or why you find them a challenge. So
what happens if it's all positive?
Well, that's brilliant. Brilliant. it's all positive, mate. Then you know on the you ever seen the do you know much about education? I mean, there's something called the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You ever heard about that?
All right. Yes. Yeah.
You have that. Do you know that rumored only 4 people have ever reached the top? The one was Mahatma Gandhi, Mother Teresa, and then obviously it's you as well, mate. So. Okay. I think it's really important that we do actually focus, and like you said, I mean, on the positives, because if we don't, we can all get caught up in the bad bits sometimes, and I'll show you an assessment of mine shortly, and what I've done with that, and the sort of the impact of the red or the development really that can kibosh the rest of the situation really. So this is what I thought of. I didn't know how to spell this. Is that the right spelling? I never know. Camaraderie, that is one of the big things for me for refereeing. You go out with very like-minded people all day, every day. You spend 5 hours, 6 hours with them on a Saturday. You spend time with them on referee meetings. You go socializing with them, and we're all like-minded people. So that's a really big thing. Mental well-being, just getting out and running around and being involved in football, for me, is an amazing thing. I always, my kids always say, "You love football more than us, Daddy," and you don't, but it's certainly a big, massive love of ours, and to be involved at any level of sport, it really does give you a buzz, and just that first bit, isn't it? Just walking out, blowing that first whistle or waving that first flag, it really is for us. I don't know why, but it's an amazing thing, isn't it? It's an amazing thing, and people often say to me, "Why are you a referee?" And sometimes you can't explain it. You just can't explain it, can you? It's almost like an ethos. It's a culture, but it's certainly that one, I think, for me. And physical well-being. I don't know who won't fit this on their positives, but that's certainly a massive thing. We get paid to run around. You don't have to pay 50 quid to go to a gym. You get paid to run around, and that's for me, that's quite a big thing. A sense of belonging. The community you're in, it's you've got to be part of community spirit. That is a big part of mental health, because socially having that impact of being around other people and doing other stuff, and it's amazing for me. Common interests. Football is a common language across the whole world. And it's never going away, and we all love it, and it's so good for me. And if you get through that game, when you get through that game and you get 22 handshakes or 2 handshakes or whatever, it's a sense of achievement, and at the end of the season, when you get promoted or you don't get promoted, or you get whatever it is, a cup final, just those little bits of accolade and reward and sort of service for what you've done. It's a big thing. I'm sure you've all been to nights, and Mike, even whether the sort of award night in Norway, it's not a massive thing, but bloody hell, it's good fun, isn't it? And bloody hell, it's rewarding. And even seeing your friends and colleagues getting something that they deserve, it really is a big thing in your mental health triangle. So the negative side is it's probably where we can do a little bit of learning, really. So I thought about this motto: control the controllables. That's across the board, isn't it? Is there bits of your areas of development here that you can control, that we can control as a group? Honesty. Honesty is a big thing, and whatever you're writing down tonight, I'm not going to mark it. I'm not going to give it you. It's all for you. And if you're putting 10, 10, 10s and across the board, and you're being honest, and I think learning has got to come from inside. If you're not being honest with yourself about certain situations, then you can't learn. That's a big thing. When I was writing this, I was thinking, I wonder why between games, some games you think, oh, I'm really looking forward to that game, and then other games you think, oh, I'm not looking forward to that at all. And I think that's a big thing, isn't it? Perhaps it's the teams. They've got a reputation, or it's the colleagues you're going to be with. The colleagues you're going to be with are thinking, shit, not him again. Or the weather's crap, or Steve Crossman's assessing you, or whatever it might be. You know, those little things can change your ethos, your mental approach just a little bit, that could actually affect your performance really. So preparation is key. You know, how often do we hear that? But how often do you in the morning on Saturday get up and you prepare all your stuff and it's 10:30 and you've got 4 hours before kickoff and you're ready? Because I'm certainly not. But so, you know, some people thrive on that, and you've got to do what suits you. You have to do what suits you. But some people actually kind of thrive on that anxiety of the last minute second to be ready to give themselves that adrenaline boost. And you know, all this comes down to doing what is right for you. You know, if you've got a process of pre-match of going out for a warm-up, brilliant. You know, if you don't, then you've got to do what fits you. You know, some people, you know, back in the day would go having a fag before the game, wouldn't they? You know, and would still get through the game. But if your process is a strict 20-minute warm-up, brilliant. If yours is go and have some Raljecks on and go on a stretch, brilliant. You've got to do what gets you right up here, because you know that first decision could be the key decision, and if that's not right, that could ruin the next 89 minutes, couldn't it? But I think, what do we do as humans, and if we look at refereeing in this point of view, when things don't go right, you say, and then you go to bed. All right, these are all perfectly reasonable things to do, I think. You know, and I've certainly done that in my early days when I've come home and I've thrown the boots in the bin. And you calm down, you give it a few days, you speak to someone, and you just, I think these are you're allowed. You know, it's cool when you're peed off. You're allowed to be peed off. You know, there is no rhyme or reason why, you know, you have to be the step up. You don't need to do that. You know, you are allowed to have worries and anxieties and be upset about certain stuff, and it is how we react about it. So, you know, these are perfectly legitimate things to do. For me, the way we can sort of rationalize this is context. It's a hard word to say. Contextualization. So contextualize it. So what I mean by that is, people who shout at you, people who abuse you, the fans, the players, the whatever, they're abusing the referee. They're frustrated with the referee. They're not abusing Mike Pedler. Okay, they're not abusing Chris Husband. They are abusing that referee. And I think if you can get in that mindset that that's what they're doing, it's not a personal thing. You know, we shouldn't be taking things personal on that day and taking yourself out of that situation. You know, they're not abusing you. They're abusing the situation or frustrated with that situation. If you can get your mindset around that, then hopefully that'll help your whole performance really. You know, we find this at school that certain kids you think are targeting you. Sometimes they target you because you're safe. You're a safe space, and you know that they know that you aren't going to react. But it's, you know, for me, I've never taken things personally in football, and I don't know if you guys do, but that's a really important point. You know, we are referees. We're not on the pitch. You're not Mike Pedler. I'm sorry to use Mike, but you are there to do a job, Mike. You know, you're not abused because of you. You're abused because you're playing that role, and that's a big thing, I think, to get into our psyche really. But saying that, what is acceptable? I think this bit can impact on the whole of our refereeing sort of mentality really, because ultimately, for me, the amount of dissent, abuse, frustration, feedback we receive is a key contributing factor into our enjoyment. You know, for me, it's a massive thing. So, and some people are naturally better at dealing with it. Some people are really good with the one-liners. Some people are really good at absorbing it and giving it back, or absorbing it and not taking it in. But, you know, some people might just card, and that's absolutely fine. You know, you've got to find what your strength is and what your area of comeback is, because, you know, if we can remove this part of the dissent, abuse, frustration from our game, I think that makes the whole thing a lot easier for us. But, you know, there's no right or wrong answer for this, you know. But I think for me, and I certainly in the early days, and certainly whenever you go to a new level, I think if you're receiving more of the dissent, abuse, frustration, feedback than most, or you're getting a lot of it, that's probably time to have a think about a change, change of tactic, to seek some advice, because there's 10, 15 people in this meeting, and you'll have WhatsApp groups and you'll have Facebook groups and whatever. There's so much experience to help you. Just because you're struggling with something, it doesn't mean you're a bad referee at all. Go and watch. This came up actually yesterday, that I'm a big believer in sort of statements, and just the power of positivity, really. So, and this came up on the calendar yesterday. So, don't give up trying to do what you want to do. When there is love and inspiration, I don't think you can go wrong. I thought it was really pertinent that I was talking about this particular bit of seeking advice from friends, because for me, the best advice is to go and watch your colleagues. We've all got a different skill set. We've all got different attributes in our game that we can take. And even the young referees, the new referees, will have different qualities, better qualities in certain areas than we have. But vice versa, the people who've been refereeing 25 years will have different skill set and different ways of managing things that we can all learn from. I think that's such a big thing. And vice versa. Encourage people to watch you. The only way we learn is by self-development. You're only going to learn that, and advice and getting that is, I wouldn't be here. I'm sure none of you would be where you were doing without changing, without developing. And that's a big thing. I think, does that happen a lot, Mike, in sort of your areas? Do you have sort of group watches, when you go and watch matches and things? Does that happen?
I think it's something which I think would be good to actually do. We don't do it at the moment. We have we've got within a society individual assessors going out to watch and giving advice. But I think we tried it one time. A group of us went out and watched, and I suppose we can do more of it, especially since we haven't seen each other. In a lot of cases, some people have never seen each other referee before. So
that's a really important thing. We do it twice a year in Worcester, where we just go and choose. And if people want to volunteer for it, great. But we generally choose, a referee who's done a few years' experience, so it's not so daunting. But the amount of learning for that, and you can do if you want an observation rate, but it's not really about that. And then what we do is we discuss at the end with the referee about some key learning points. But it's so good, and to have a couple of beers with your friends as well, ticks off the social part of your triangle as well. So it's really important. I like to have open honesty. You don't learn anything by not doing that. So don't sweat the small stuff. How many times have you gone home and been peed off because you got a throw-in wrong or a corner wrong or even a penalty wrong? How often do we do that? And we do that because we're self-critical and we want to improve. But this is my assessment from the other week. I got crucified. I got an offside wrong. Completely got an offside wrong, and I put my hands up, and it didn't lead to a goal. But fitness and movement, positioning, I was out of positioning a little bit, so I got hammered on that, and quite rightly. But ultimately, I got a crap score. No one's died. No one's died. But you go home and you read that, and you're pissed off for 10 minutes. Ultimately, the game's carried on. The world's carried on, come revolving. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to learn from that. The offside, luckily I'm quite fortunate. I've got the benefit of the video, and I've worked out what I did wrong, and I certainly won't be doing that again. But the benefit of getting someone to watch you or going to watch people, you can learn from their mistakes as well, and that's a key thing. No one's perfect. No one's perfect. The perfect guy is or girl it doesn't exist. So I think that's a really, really important thing. But look after yourself. Don't. If you are a 4 or 5 on any of these parts, message someone like hopefully we've just done. Reach out, because there's only so much of this that goes round. Some parts of it will stop. And I think certainly if we go back 12 months, part of it had stopped. And that's a really big thing, wasn't it? Really. And men especially, we're crap at it, aren't we? We are crap about talking about our emotions. And women, they're so much better. I don't know why. The women are so much better. They'll the first thing they'll talk about is, I had a really shit week, or blah, blah, blah. We never do that. And what is that about us men that we don't do that? And I don't know. I really don't know. But So to go back to why I first sort of coined the all rightness scale was because how often do you use that? You're all right, mate. Yeah, I'm all right. It's almost like you may as well just say hi. You may as well just say that, But even if you come back with just a score, yeah, I'm a 4, I'm a 5 or 6. Just some feedback on that would be really good. Right, I'm going to set you some homework before we sort of conclude. All right. We've already done a little bit about arranging something. Have a think about someone who's been quiet. Have a think about someone who's been quiet, and it might be a work colleague, might be a family member, it might be your sister. And then check up on them. Hopefully one of those people might be checking up on you, and that'll be pretty cool. But also looking at your home, your work, your social, what can you do right now on those 3 areas to improve your score by 2? It might be something simple. It might be to do the laundry. My wife's giving me a stare here. To do something around the house that's going to get her off a case. It might be to go out for a run. We all feel that urge sometimes, don't we, to go and do something physical. It might be as big and dramatic as changing your job or moving house or something dramatic. It doesn't have to be dramatic to improve your score. What we attribute this in the psychology world is, I don't know how many of you have had kids or have got kids, but kids get ill really quickly and can get severely ill really quickly, but then they recover really quickly as well. So with mental health, you can actually go downhill really quickly, but you can also recover really quickly. And the slightest tweak on these areas can be really impactful. And it might be that you've worked out that social is your lowest score. What can you do to address that? It might be home is your worst score. What can you do to address that? Or work? I can't give you advice about those 3 sections because it's your lives. But what can you do to improve those scores? And I think it's really important. It's really important. So to finish with, let's just revisit your early scores. Not the triangles. All right, the overall scores of how you were feeling. Really think about that. Really think about that score and why is it a 6? Why is it a 7? Why is it a 9? Why is it a 4? All right, and then hopefully I've killed a few taboos about how you're feeling about mental health right now, because it isn't a taboo anymore. It is not a taboo anymore. Hopefully even the next time you guys get together, you can text whatever, and it's there was that thing on Facebook, wasn't it? I don't know how many are on Facebook, but there was that blue, people would put blue or green or red, and it was just a sign to people to say, I need help. And that's what it is. And there's nothing wrong with asking for help, because like I said, if you've got a broken leg, broken arm, you're going to get it fixed. And just because this is a bit weak at the moment or struggling at the moment, it can be fixed, it can be changed, it can be improved. But you need the support of those around you, and you need ultimately to take that first step yourself. And it's if you are struggling, and I hope nobody is, but that first step of just reaching out to somebody can be quite tricky. But if that first step is done for you by somebody saying, mate, you've been a bit quiet recently, can I help? How cool could that be? How cool could that be? And look, that was me as a kid. If I can survive my teenage years looking like that, then you lot can talk about how you're feeling right now, can't you? So, people let me go out the house looking like that. But look, thanks for listening, guys. And look, it is a weird topic to talk about, and quite sensitive at times, isn't it? Especially when you break it down into home, the work, the social. But I think it's really important, and to put it some context in your refereeing, I hope we've identified areas that are sort of stronger and maybe areas of development. But it all comes down to you. It's all contextual, and it's all personal. But hopefully it's giving you some food for thought, really, to work with. So,
got a question about the recovering. So you had on your last game, you had that bad decision.
Yeah.
Or it didn't result in a goal. It wasn't KMI, so to speak.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you've been in situations where there has been a KMI.
Yeah.
So the Monday morning afterwards, how do you feel? How do you recover?
Yeah, mate, that's a very good question. I think I think we are professional. We want to achieve properly in every game. We want to it's a very weird psyche, isn't it? I mean, about refereeing, because people say to me, you must be arrogant to be a referee, and I pose the question probably a little tiny bit, because to be involved and to take control of a refereeing situation, a match, you've probably got to be a little bit arrogant, I think, and that's probably a strong statement. But refereeing's given me the skills in life, I think, that I probably wouldn't have gained, especially from James. I don't know how old you are, James, but from an early age, at 16, refereeing men, it gives you such strength of character, such management of people that you would never get from a normal job, I don't think. And I think the skills you learn then, and the self-reflection, are really important, Amit, because like I said, yes, I've cocked up, and ultimately, if I've got a KMD wrong, that team could be penalised or whatever. But ultimately, I think if you look at the life, those teams, if they're going to go down, they're going to go down, and it's not going to come down to my offside decision I've got wrong, But it is a really big, important question, mate, about how you park it and move on. And one of the things that I don't know what you guys do on the way to games and things, but phoning up your colleagues and discussing, just sharing those mistakes, because one of the things we learn in life. I could have talked tonight about assistant refereeing, and I could have banged on about decision making and then about being in the right position, but hopefully from experience and watching stuff, you'll learn that yourself. But if we're going to break things down and learn things, it's about being honest. And yeah, I've made several high profile errors, on games that have cost myself personally marks, but more for the clubs that you've let them down, and the fans that you could have ultimately cost them 2 points or 1 point or whatever. But you've got to move on. You've got to learn that from that experience. And I think if you can learn from the error, be it, if we have flagged for an offside, I'll talk technicalities for a few seconds. That sometimes if the ball's played forward and you've got a defender moving out and an attacker moving forward, the chances are it's onside. The one that sticks in my mind is that when you've got a player who's coming back from an offside position and they cross back over on the far side, for example, generally the chances are if they come back, they're offside. The mistake I made was not flagging that comeback. So the learning there was for me, but if he's probably coming back into play, he's probably offside. So it's generally that's the learning point there for me, was that if that's happened again and you're thinking, sugar, what's happened there? He's probably offside. So rather than thinking, you're probably going to flag that. So that's the learning point, and vice versa. If you're faced with you've just had a big ding like that, and you've got a guy who's 2 yards, and you're thinking, God, where's he come from? If you've had a big crossover, the experience we've got tells us it's probably to keep your flag down. So it's analysing, you're learning. That's the bit for me, and I mean, and it's you look at the triangle, home, work, social. If you've had a Barney with a wife, you know that next time you're not going to say that thing, or you're going to, yes dear, whatever. That's a learning point. It's a really crucial learning point, isn't it? So, good question, mate. Good question, and a bit of a long-winded answer.
and to follow up, like say, football can be very unforgiving. So so you've forgiven yourself, but others haven't forgiven you, whether it's assessors or whether it's colleagues and so on.
Yeah.
So how do you square that then? As in, you've moved on, but other people haven't. So
yeah, that's a really good question again, isn't it? I mean, so there's a colleague of mine, I don't know if you've ever heard of him, Dave Hine. So Dave was on a football league for quite a long time. He actually, on the last day of the season, he disallowed a goal for Crystal Palace. For West Brom at Palace, and West Brom got relegated that day. And he is still, every time we get together, people go, "Oh, Dave, remember that decision?" So sometimes, I mean, it doesn't. Sometimes you can't have that relationship repaired. But what about you? What would you say, mate?
I suppose you turn on and say, well, you look at your life and you say, well, there's more to life than that decision. That decision doesn't define you.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you've got to move on. If people can't move on, then that's their problem, I suppose.
Yeah. Mike's posed a question. So a KMD, does everyone know what a KMD is? So a key match decision. It could be you've offered advice on the red card, or you've disallowed a goal, you're given or not given a goal. So that's a key match decision. So Mike said, in a game you get wrong, how long do they get the report? And how do you mentally cope in knowing the decision may have been wrong? Yeah, really good question. So generally what they have to do is they have to give us a report within 48 hours of the footage coming live. I mean, what we did when we restarted football after lockdown was the assessors weren't allowed in the changing room. So we'd had the debrief, say the game was on a Saturday, we had the debrief at 7 or 7:30 on the Sunday night. So the question there, that the decision may have been wrong, I'll already know. So I'll already know if I've got the decision right or wrong. And, you know, in that respect, it's good. And it makes that discussion with the assessor easy, that he'll go, oh, what do you think? I'm wrong. You can put your hand up, or I know I'm right. So it is good. But yeah, I mean, those few days before you get the report can be, especially if you're doing well or you're doing badly, can be quite a weird thing. So, I mean, I don't know if you get live league tables or you get positions throughout the season, but in theory, we have what we call a live league table. So we have a KMD list and then a sort of an assessor's report list out of 100, and then they're live as they go through the whole season. And, you know, early on, I was looking at it every day and thinking, shit, I need to be higher. And you know, you almost hang your hat, I mean, on everything that's happening on those decisions. And I think as you get older, as you see the bigger picture, if you like, of the footballing world, it's not about me. It's not about me. Football is about football, you know. And I don't look at those. I'll read my report and I'll do that, but I don't look at the positions now, because, you know, you'll be reading everything into it. So yeah, I think football's a winner for me, and that's a stupid phrase, isn't it? But we're just a part of a cog. I mean, that should be aiding that football match to its completion, you know, and that's what I think. Yeah. Got another question. So, out of interest, do you think that there are specific challenges that could impact mental health for an assistant referee? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the biggest things for me is that you are in that same space all the time. You know, you are, especially if you're dug outside, if you get something wrong, or they perceive to be wrong in the first few minutes, you're there the whole time, you know, and that is, for you're running back up knowing those people are going to shout at you again. And that's a really good question mark there. Well, as a referee, he can bugger off, can't he? He can go and hide for the other end of the pitch, really. And the same with the crowd, you know. We've got obviously an earpiece in one ear, but you can hear everything that's said in that ear. You know, some of it's quite vitriolic, really, but that's where putting a contextualization for me, Mark, that they're not shouting at Chris Husband, but they're shouting at the assistant referee, you know, and it's their outlet. You know, we've all been to football matches where we've given the ref for the line of abuse, because it's an outlet, isn't it? You know, and I think especially at the moment, I think if people have got an area where they can get anger and anxiety and frustrations out, I'm fine with it. But, you know, I'm not saying that you don't take some of it in, Mark, because you absolutely do. But that's a really good question. Really good question. Yeah. And I think if you not that I want to focus on assessments really, but, you know, as an assistant referee, you know, you live and die on your offside decisions. You know, they're such a big part of the scoring system. So, you know, if you do get one wrong, you lose lots and lots of marks, which can cost you position and ultimately rewards at the end of the season, or in theory relegation. But little things like throw-ins and corners and goal kicks, which are still a massive part of your game, are very little marks. So you're absolutely right that if you think you've got something wrong after 2 minutes and it's a big decision that's going to affect your mark or your game, it can impact the rest of your game, can't it? You know, especially if you're second guessing yourself. You know, and I'm sure we've all, but when we're refereeing, experience tells us a certain thing. But early on in my career, I'd almost wait for something to happen, something to go wrong, and mentally that's a bad place to be in. isn't it? Whereas experience tells us, actually, if something does happen, I can deal with that. I can manage that game. I know how to react. So yeah, it's a really, really good question, Mark. So thank you for that, mate. Thank you.
I just wanted to make a point, Chris, on going back to my question, really. When I was on the Welsh Premier, when one of the times on the line, I had 3 or maybe 4 KMDs as an assistant. It was the live game on Scorio, which is like the Welsh S4C, and the assessor came in after the game and he talked me through it, and he said, "Oh, I'm gonna have to review 3 of them." I think he said, "I'll have to review them because it was a live game." So he's gone home and watched it, and then I've got that journey home, and it's like it's that playing through your mind over and over. Was it right? Was it right? Was it wrong? And that's not good.
No.
That's not good, for your mental well-being, because that could be the difference between you getting promoted, staying where you are, or getting demoted.
Absolutely.
So,
but I mean, is there a way out of that? I don't. We are in a results business, aren't we? Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I don't think we can avoid that. I mean, we can learn to deal with it better, and realize perhaps that I don't really know what the outcome is, but it's a really good question, Mike. Really good question, and it does. I'm sure all of us have been affected that way after games, and perhaps perhaps here it comes down to the skill of the assessor as well, in terms of the feedback that they give you and the way they deal with it, because honesty is, and I think people have to give an opinion, don't they? And I think you'd have been, I don't know what happened there, Mike, but if it had gone right, Mike, I think for me, from my position, the first 3 are wrong and 1's right. You're going home thinking, shit, 3 are wrong. So, but it's better than going, am I right? Am I wrong? So, yeah, really good question. Really good question.
What kind of support do you get from the FA for mental health?
Yeah. So, FA and the PGMO are slightly different organisations. So we are sort of the national group assistants are sort of managed by the PGMO. So I have a coach, a specific coach. We're split into sort of 3 groups, and I think he has about 15 or 16. So we speak to him every couple of weeks. Mine is Mike McMurphy, who's an ex-Prem ref, Prem line. I think there's like a couple of others, I can't remember the names, but so I'll speak to him quite regularly about decisions and things. But we have, the advent of sort of online learning has made things a lot easier, actually. Because our whole conference pre-season was all online, and you can tap into lots of different sort of training portals if you wish. But one of the things they are really pushing is the psychologist, and a chap called Liam Slack, who you can phone up and he'll come and watch, or he'll give you advice on certain areas. It might be, like Mark said, they're dealing with those key match decisions and how you prepare for that. It might be, if you've got 10 offsides wrong in 10 games, that something's probably wrong up here rather than actually here. So, there's certainly support there if you need it. And they're putting more and more money into that side of things, really, because sadly at the top level of the game, there is so much money involved that, if you do get something wrong, it can cost clubs money. And that, that psychological point of view from there is quite tricky to deal with, isn't it? That, if I'm not saying that, a decision early on in February or something will cost you, but if you have got something in the last couple of days or last game of the season, you've got something wrong and it has impacted upon a team going up, going down, that appears quite challenging. So, the support, to be fair, I can't fault them. And a couple of years ago, doing what I do, I actually contacted them and said, look, I don't think we do enough, because, there are lots of people that I talk to who worry about it too much and overanalyze situations and are going into games almost expecting things to go wrong. And that's not a good point of view. So, I put my hat on them at the moment. They're doing a really good job. They just need to cascade it down the systems, because I don't know whether you guys ever get any support or have talked about it before, but that it needs to be a bottom-up thing for me. It's got to be.
And do you think that's where the RAs come in?
Yeah, absolutely. Sadly, I don't know how long you've been involved, but they're a dying breed. they're a dying breed, sadly, the RAs. And so I've been like 25 years, 25th years in May. I've been involved with the RA from the start, and sort of 18 years as sort of vice chairman and chairman. So I've been involved a lot. And, you know, we used to get 100 members coming at the start of the first few years and things. And with the advent of the internet and things like that, you know, the advice is online if you need it, really. But I don't think you can buy this kind of scenario. You know, if you've had an issue, you know, often we do a referee meeting where we have a box and we write concerns down, and they're not anonymous, and we'll pull one out and we'll discuss it, and the learning and involved from the lowest inexperienced guy to the top one. It's so important, and we're losing that. We are losing that. You know, and I think it's going to be a different scenario for our RAs in a couple of years, because, you know, Worcester's gone from 100 members to about 12. You know, and in a couple of years, what's that going to look like? I don't know. But once they're gone, they ain't coming back. So the more you can do to get everyone involved with curry nights, with bowling nights, with social events, to get all the youngsters involved, yeah, that's the only way we're going to survive through these. So
I was going to say about younger referees then. So a lot of the, we've got these development groups. So a lot of them are hived off from society. So they recently qualified, go to the development groups, and then they get the training from the development officers and so on. And they're almost like got their plan already decided on what they're going to be doing refereeing wise. Do you think I think it's pretty similar over the border as well. So it's Worcester society, they won't really get to see those young referees. They go off to development groups.
Yeah.
So do you think that's a positive impact, or you think that those referees are missing something else?
I think it's got pros and cons, doesn't it? Because whether we create a false economy for them, where, you know, they're in around that development all the time and they see the riches, but not everyone can get, you know, I've been very fortunate, in my career, very, very fortunate. And you can always pinpoint, can't you, some sort of events in your life that have helped you get to where you are, really. And some are very, very fortunate, really. But you've got to give those people the opportunity, because, you know, in 10 years' time, you know, the refereeing community will be different. And, you know, those 15, 16-year-olds will be the 25, 26-year-olds, you know, and football's changing so much. The game is changing so much that if you don't educate them from an early age properly, in the 10 years' time, they won't be ready. Yeah. But I don't know about you guys, but, you know, the sort of Sunday football or Saturday football in Worcestershire is dying a death as well. You know, there isn't the commitment from the clubs anymore. There isn't the commitment from the teams anymore. You know, the Sunday morning football, it's nosedive in terms of quality, but also in terms of the sort of the I hate the word abuse, but the abuse that we get, you know, it's gone up that massively in the last sort of 4 or 5 years. And, you know, we lose so many referees. So the support that we call, so it's called CORE over here. So FA CORE it's called. So the support they get is vital. And generally, if they're in that core system from early on, they do stick it out. You know, we use, I think, you know, I tutored for 6 or 7 years, and there's some crazy stat that 90% of referees quit in the first year. And that's the area, the retention area, where it's got to be addressed at, because, you know, why are they going? That's the question. Why are they going? I think we know why, but, you know, why are they not sticking out? Is it the support that they're given? Quite possibly, you know, and yeah, it's a really good, I don't know what the system's like with you, mate, but, you know, CORE is good. I think it is good, but you are right that we lose the talented ones too quickly. And also the ones who aren't in it are thinking, A, why am I not in it? And B, I'm not getting any support. And they'll go and do something else. So it's a quandary, isn't it? It's a very big quandary. But
Chris, I've got to say, mate, fantastic. And it's, you know, it's an insight into mental health. I'm sure everybody will take something away tonight. I have.
Pretty triangle.
You know,
Is it a dream?
My injury is, you know, it's taken an impact not only on my refereeing side, but socially. I was in a boot for 12 weeks, so being stuck in the house, not working, not refereeing, not going out, you know, took a massive nosedive. Like you say, it was almost like going back to the start of lockdown again, being stuck in the house. And I text a friend, and he has actually replied now, and he said, "Are you driving or are you drinking?" So there we
winner.
That's winner. So I've taken something from it, and I hope everybody else has tonight. So I can only tip my hat off to you, mate. Thank you very much.
No, pleasure. Thank you, mate. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
And for anybody who wants to follow Chris, his little updates on Facebook with regards to his twins, worth their weight in gold. And if you could write a book, honestly, you make an absolute mint. You could give a referee a mate. So thank you very much, mate.
Pleasure, mate. Great to see you all. Thank you.
You'll have to come on down, mate, on one of our society nights, and just come down and have a catch up.
Cool. Give me a shout, mate. Love it.
Lovely. Thank you, Chris.
Pleasure.
All the best, mate. Speak to you soon.
No worries. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, mate. Cheers.
Diolch yn fawr, and thank you for watching the presentation. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel.
Creating problems.